welcome to Wise and Shine.
Good morning. My name is Katelyn.
And I'm Maddison, and today we have one of our very own finance advisors,
Woo!
Peter Smith. Peter, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am situated out of Dryden. I am a CPA. I was in public practice for 35 years. 20 of those was a partner in a national accounting firm.
Right.
And we have a lot of experience with First Nations and First Nation organizations.
Awesome.
Perfect. So audits are kind of your thing then?
Well, they
Historically.
Historically, yes.
Right.
Right now I'm just helping.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's what we're here to talk about, I guess.
Yeah, so today we are going to talk about preparation for our audit. So,
And these are some questions that we've gotten from our audience.
Yeah.
So we're just hoping that you'll answer them for us.
Okay, I will try my best.
okay.
So these are specifically for before year end, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So March.
Things to look for are
Okay.
things to do before March 31st.
Okay, awesome.
Perfect.
Okay.
Alrighty, so we will start here. So as everyone's aware, bank reconciliations are a big part of getting ready for your annual audit.
Mm-hmm.
What can people do to take the stress out of bank reconciliation?
Mm.
Well, first off, bank reconciliations should not be a year-end procedure. It should
Right.
basically be a monthly procedure.
Mhm.
Right.
If you do it monthly, you're going to have more accurate information.
Makes sense.
You're going to have more accurate reports, and you don't have to stress at the end of the year to do 12 bank reconciliations.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So do it monthly and take the stress out of the audit.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so another one of the questions we have, so in quite a few situations, the auditors spend a lot of time reallocating revenues and expenses to ensure that they are in the proper program or project. So are there any procedures that First Nations can initiate that might reduce the number of adjusting entries before year end?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. The general rule of thumb is that you should review your revenues and expenses
Mhm.
monthly.
Right.
Mhm.
And again, you should be doing that with your managers.
Right.
The managers are the people that know the stuff.
Right.
They're front line. They know what revenues you have. They know what expenses you have.
Sure.
Every month, you should be giving your managers copies of the revenues and expenses, and they should be reviewing it
Okay.
and getting back to you on whether or not there's any adjustments.
Right.
So again, doing adjustments on a monthly basis
Mhm.
as opposed to trying to sort it all out at the end of the year.
That
I'm
makes
seeing a
lot of
pattern.
sense.
Yeah,
and
I'm
the
seeing a
communication
pattern.
aspect of it.
Yeah.
Always kind of checking in, right? So
Mhm.
Yeah,
everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
This makes sense.
that
Okay.
does.
Perfect. So here's another one. A number of years ago, accounting standards had changed to include the recording of capital assets. In a number of situations, capital assets are recorded as regular operating expenses and then pulled out at the end of the year by the auditor. So what can the First Nation do to assist in this process?
Again, capital assets should not be a year-end thing.
Right.
It should be something that's done on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Capital assets are assets that have a useful life of over 1 year.
Okay.
Things like trucks and machinery and buildings
Okay.
and stuff like that. And First Nations in their accounting records should actually be posting these to their capital asset accounts as they buy them,
Right,
Mhm.
as opposed to putting them in expenses and having the auditor pull it out at the end of the year.
right.
Right.
So it's better to do it up front, and
Okay.
and even if they're not set up to do that, and even if some of the bookkeepers aren't comfortable in doing or putting things to these asset accounts, as long as they keep a file.
Mm.
As long
Okay.
as they keep a file, it could be a digital file, it could be a paper file, but a file of all the capital assets they encounter over the course of the year. So at the end of the year, they could just pass it off to their auditor and say, "Here you go."
Right,
Right.
It makes it a lot easier.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. That
Yeah.
makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember this kind of stuff, this kind of conversations from when I took accounting, so it's kind of resonating slightly with me. So I'm excited because this is not my forte, but
Absolutely not. Me
I'm
either,
glad that
but-
this is making sense to
Yeah.
me. Okay, so we have another question. So we all want our audits to be done in the most efficient manner possible and to minimize the disruption in the community. So someone said that they have heard that ensuring that controls, such as authorizing POs, make a difference at the audit time. Is this true?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. When we're talking about controls, we're talking about things like signatures on POs,
Right.
or
Mm-hmm.
signing off on timesheets,
Right.
or signing off on check requisitions, that
Mhm.
type of thing.
Right.
And these controls are critical in running the First Nation. It basically make sure that everything is recorded properly and everything is put in its place and everything is authorized.
Right.
So first and foremost, controls are there for the community.
Mhm.
Secondly, they're there for the auditors.
Right.
If the auditors can prove
Mhm.
that those controls are actually working
Mm-hmm.
Right.
by doing a test,
Mm-hmm.
then they can actually reduce the amount of testing they have to do in other areas.
Okay.
Okay.
I
So,
see.
so,
Yeah.
so controls are important,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
but first and foremost because you want controls within the First Nation, and
Mhm.
second because it does help the auditors.
Right.
So it's one of those things that kind of protects everyone, makes everyone's life a little
Exactly.
Yeah. You're
Exactly.
dotting your I's and you're crossing
Yep.
your T's.
Mhm.
for sure.
I would say.
That makes sense.
That's what
As
accountants
one
do.
would
That's
say.
what accountants do. They dot those I's and they cross those T's.
Everything is black and white in my world.
That checks out.
But
Not in my world.
we
It's
need
colorful
that,
over
though.
here,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yes.
complete us.
Yeah.
The governWISE team.
We control you.
little accountant humor there for us. Okay, so another issue that seems to come up time and time again is budgets.
Mm.
So what do budgets have to do with the audit, and what can the First Nation do to help in this area?
Well, the bottom line is that if you don't have budgets,
Mhm.
you're going to have a qualification on your audit opinion.
Right.
Qualification is a bad thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
It basically says that everything is good except.
Okay.
Oh.
So it's crucial to have a budget.
Mhm.
And again, budgets start at the program level, because
Right.
these are the people that know
Okay.
the nuts and bolts of the programs. And every program in a First Nation has to have a budget.
Right.
And all of those budgets have to eventually be approved.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
it's not good enough to just do your own little budget and throw it in your filing cabinet and leave it there until the end of the year.
Mhm.
Right.
Those budgets have to be brought forth to your finance department. The finance department has to consolidate them. They have to approach leadership and basically get them approved.
Right.
And once they're approved, then there's something that the auditor can use to finish off the financial statements.
Okay.
So
Right.
Makes sense.
it's and budgets again are something that are good for the First Nation itself, and
Mhm.
Sure.
and second for the auditors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're not doing all of this stuff for the auditors, but it does help.
Right.
Right.
Right. So another question about preparation for the audit. So aside from the finance team, what else can the project management team and the administrative staff do to help to prepare for the audit?
I think in very basic terms, they have to be organized.
Okay.
And that's important. You have to make sure that everything is properly filed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You have to make sure that you've done all your matching, and your POs are matched with your invoices, which are matched with your check requisitions and all of that
Right.
sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And all of the controls are there, and all the signatures are in place.
Right.
Right.
That in itself is a good start. And then on the revenue side, all of these departments should have all of their contracts available, and
Right.
any revenue source documents,
Mhm.
funding agreements, that sort of stuff
Mhm.
Makes sense.
available.
Right.
So if you have all of that, then that helps quite a bit,
For sure.
because otherwise the auditor is running around with his head cut off trying to figure
Right.
out where stuff is at, and rummaging through filing cabinets.
And we don't need
It
that.
could be a lot easier. No,
Yeah.
we don't,
No.
because time is money.
Time is money, and organization is key.
Bang on.
Mm-hmm.
Bang on.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Which is something we like to around here is organization.
Absolutely. All right, and so all First Nations have March 31st year end. We've talked about a few things that we can do before the year end, pardon me. Is there anything that needs to be done right at the year end on March 31st, day of?
Oh, good question.
There's not a whole lot,
Okay.
simply because a lot of the stuff that still pertains to that year happens after the year, because you're getting invoices and
Okay.
all of that stuff. So
Right.
you're not closing off your books at March 31st.
Right. It's not
Okay.
like a cut and dry date.
No,
Okay.
no. But there are some things that you might have to do. If you
Right.
have inventory,
Right.
you would have to do an inventory count. You might have an inventory at your community store that the band owns.
Okay.
Right.
That inventory count has to be done on March 31st.
To get the most
Oh.
accurate count.
Okay.
Okay,
Exactly.
That makes
right,
sense.
right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Or another example is a lot of the northern communities get all of their fuel
Right.
over the winter roads, and it comes in January and February. So by March 31st, they have a stockpile of fuel.
Right.
So somebody actually has to go in there and actually dip all of the tanks.
Right.
I've done that many
Wow.
times,
Yeah.
Oh.
and actually do an inventory count.
Right.
Interesting.
Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to inventory, there's not. It doesn't have to be done completely.
Mhm.
Just the count has to be done.
Right.
The actual adding and the pricing and all of that stuff could be done after the fact.
Right.
You
Okay.
just have to have the count done on that day.
Interesting. Okay.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So in summary, pretty much everything should be done well before year end, but
The only thing that's done
There's
the day
tangible
of,
things
yeah,
that
the
you
only
have to
done that should be done the day of is the inventory, making sure everything's.
Yeah. There's a ton of stuff that the First Nations can do beforehand to make it a lot easier
right.
On themselves.
Come March,
Yeah.
because
Right.
come April, May, June, everybody's really busy simply
Right.
because they
Yes.
didn't do a lot of this stuff beforehand.
Right.
So
Okay.
timing is key.
Perfect.
Timing is key.
All right.
Awesome. Well, I think that that's it for our Wise
Yeah.
and Shine
Thank
today.
you so much, Peter.
Thank you
and
so much,
we
Peter.
will be having you back for a follow-up
Yes, we are.
for after year end audit.
Yes, we are.
So stay
Okay.
tuned
So
for
stay
that,
tuned for that.
and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you.